So it seems like maybe Joe Biden knows something. His prediction of a dark winter has arrived almost on cue. It is a terrible weather day here in New York City as restaurants continue to close and those that remain open continue to deal with the really untenable rulings of Emmy Award-winning Governor Andrew Cuomo. We can see the ones that remain open are grappling with having this exterior dining through cold days of winter in New York City. I don't know who's going to want to do that. You can also see they've all been kind of reinforced with, sealed plastic. So again, to the extent that some of these restaurants had these closed outdoor dining sections that are essentially indoor rooms outside without HVAC, they're all doing that now, and it does seem like some of them are experiencing a problem of homeless people perhaps, sheltering themselves in there overnight. It's getting cold at night, so if it rains or something, I don't think you're going to be able to keep people out of there. I saw a few of these further up there, which were kind of like sealed off and having ropes and things, I guess in some kind of attempt to keep people out. I'm on my way once again to the courthouse here. I've spoken quite a bit about how I've been hassled by vexatious lawsuits, and it takes a lot of my time. It's interesting, the last live stream I made like this, the pro se plaintiff in Swigert v. Goodman, pretty early for a blunt, he got upset that I'm mentioning him. This is a public lawsuit. The fact that he is the plaintiff is known to anybody who wants to look it up. He even promotes it on various websites that purport to be news about the courts. It seems to me that, there's a method, whether you're a YouTube pro se plaintiff or the Emmys, you put your false allegations into a lawsuit, and then you get news reporting on the false allegations. In the case of the pro se plaintiff, we've got various, mock websites that have been put together by him and other people that report on the filings. In the case of the Emmys, well, they've put nearly as many untrue statements into their filings, but they get things like the Hollywood Reporter to talk about it. It's funny how they only talk about things that they find in their favor. The Emmys have alleged that I've accused Adam Sharp's father of participating in Operation Mockingbird, which according to them was a CIA torture and mind control program that involved murder. I never said that. And they seem unable to use Google because Operation Mockingbird is not a conspiracy theory. It's a declassified government program that William Colby, the former director of the Central Intelligence Agency, told the U.S. Senate about. Lawyers for the Emmys are unable to look that up and even familiarize themselves with the things that they are filing pleadings about. So that's bad. Adam Sharp might want to, ask them to do a little bit more research. I'm sure he's paying them a lot of money. Along the lines of dark winter, it is not snowing right now, but it's bad. When the weather is bad, everything just becomes more difficult moving around the city, whatever. We're about to walk right by Northwell Health. Now, this is the place that charged me $4,000 to see a doctor for, I wasn't timing it, certainly less than 30 minutes, probably less than 10. I had an abscess on my finger that appeared to be becoming infected. It certainly wasn't life-threatening, but I, went here, and they don't have a menu on the wall telling you how much it costs to poke a needle in your finger and give you one pill, but apparently it's $4,000. Now this Northwell Health, it's the same medical group. I believe Emmy Award-winning Governor Cuomo told us this morning that it's the largest hospital group in New York. I think he said that. There was a press conference earlier today where one of New York City's frontline healthcare workers, a woman named Sandra Lindsay, I believe, was the first to receive this Pfizer messenger RNA vaccine outside of a trial setting. That's generous language from the governor. I feel like the emergency, the emergency categorization they've given this vaccine in order to rush it through FDA approval essentially makes the deployment of the thing a trial. We haven't had the normal tests that we would have for other vaccines. Even President Trump has spoken about how it's, record-breaking stuff getting the vaccine developed so quickly. And then we heard, what's the guy's name who's the director of the NIH, Collins. He was telling everybody to hit the reset button on what they think they know about this vaccine. I guess he wants you to start listening to Bill Gates. There was also a question as to why the CEO of Pfizer wasn't the first guy to take the vaccine. He's got a very good answer for that. He said, oh, well, we don't want to be seen as jumping the line. And it's noteworthy that Sandra Lindsay, the critical care nurse who was the first in New York to receive the vaccine, is a black woman. They've been saying for a long time it's important that black people get the vaccine first, that coronavirus is racist. It affects black people more than white people. So in order for vaccine justice to exist, they want black people to get it first. I mean, I think whoever wants it should be able to get it. But I personally would feel much better if all the people telling us to take it, that it's so safe, I think they should take it themselves first. Then I think their children and their elderly parents should be second to take it. I mean, we're talking about a handful of people. I think they're developing millions of these vaccines. I just think if Andrew Cuomo, his daughters, his elderly mother, his brother there on CNN, let's have those guys take it so they can tell us their firsthand experience. I mean, I think Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had posted a statistic that out of about 21,000 people in the trial, there was a number who had gotten Bell's palsy. I mean, it was a low number. Maybe it was 4 people or 8 people, but still, out of 21,000, for that many, Bell's palsy is pretty bad. Bell's palsy, like your face droops, and I think it's almost like having a stroke, like a mini kind of a, sometimes permanent in some people. But Robert Kennedy Jr. did a good job of going through the facts and details, the statistics, extrapolating out how these types of outcomes might play out in a larger deployment of the vaccine. I mean, they're talking about vaccinating everybody. And of course, Cuomo, with the help of Dersh and the New York Bar Association, has been marching us all down this road where it is a foregone conclusion, essentially, that everybody in New York may be mandated to get this vaccine. Now, there's a winter storm coming, and they've been basically saying it's going to be pretty serious, has the potential to affect tomorrow's scheduled protest in Staten Island. Remember, New York Teachers for Choice are having a protest at the Department of Education in Staten Island tomorrow. But, I mean, if it's a huge winter snowstorm, it's really difficult to get to Staten Island by subway. You got to go to Brooklyn, and I mean, it's not really difficult, but it takes a lot of time, and sometimes the subway doesn't run so well when it's snowing, even though it's underground. Who knows why that is? But everything in New York City slows down and becomes even more sort of jammed up when it's snowing. And certainly nobody's going to want to go out to a restaurant and eat. I'd have to say that place is closed, the Riviera Cafe. I don't think that boarded up wood. Like, they normally had that greenhouse there. That was their whole thing. So would that be outdoor? Can a restaurant like that stay open, although it's closed? So I don't know. The other thing I saw is that Gordon Chang, who joined us on Sunday with Charles a couple of weeks ago, he is saying that, oh my gosh. Yeah, that looks totally safe. Seal yourself in a box 2 feet away from people. So this is science, according to Governor Cuomo? That doesn't look cheap to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of these things. Got to be a couple of $100 each to seal people in the plastic virus incubator and sit there in the cold with a small volume of air. Anyway, Gordon Chang was saying that he believes China is collecting a database of DNA of people in the United States for the purpose of developing biological weapons. That's a bit of a scary prospect. Like, I guess, you know, if they could figure out what type of a... Now, wait a minute. See, this is interesting because here we've got various medical professionals who are social media stars from Lincoln Hospital and Elmhurst Hospital and Maimonides Hospital talking about how this is even the governor says that this is a virus that affects the black and Hispanic neighborhoods, and there is, you know, racial and social injustice in virology. So maybe they're onto something. Maybe if China has everybody's DNA, they could create a racist virus that just attacks whoever they don't like. I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. I'm not a genetic engineer or a bioweapons expert. Wow. All of these places are closing. Retail shop for lease right there. Oh, 33. The other thing is, I don't know if people got a chance to see Sunday with Charles yesterday. It was originally supposed to be a holiday special with Heshi Tischler, but at the last minute it was announced that there was another demonstration there at Mac's Bar, so they called Heshi over there to speak at the thing, and we went and joined him. So that sort of preempted the regular show. But something very interesting happened during that. People who saw Andrew Cuomo's Emmy Award-winning press conference on Wednesday, I think it was the 9th, he was asked by a journalist about Mac's Public House, the situation on Staten Island, and specifically Danny Presti, one of the owners of the bar there. And the governor said a number of things that were just outright not true. There's a great article 2 or 3 days ago in the Federalist. Blue Box Dave on Twitter, is that it? Dave, I forget his last name. But it was a very well-written article debunking the governor. The governor was talking about how Staten Island is the smallest of the 5 boroughs. That's true. And he said that it was like 5% of New York's population, but accounted for something like 25% of the death rate, which, if that were correct, it would mean like, you know, something like 6 or 8% of all of Staten Island would be dead from coronavirus. So I don't think that's correct. And, yeah, I mean, you can see restaurateurs building their plastic huts all over the place. I mean, how is this outdoor if it's sealed? Oh, I guess they have the windows open. Who is going to want to sit in there when it's 20 degrees, snowing? I mean, this is a death sentence for the remaining restaurants here. But anyway, the Federalist was talking about how that's wrong. The journalist had placed a call to the governor's press office, which he's got more patience than me. I've waited on hold half an hour with that press office, and they never answer the phone. So that's interesting. But apparently, according to this Federalist article, the press office said that the governor was talking about within the past week. So I don't know. That sounds like backpedaling. That sounds like he doesn't have the facts straight. The other really important thing, in my view, that the governor said And this was terrible. I want people to really think about this. Danny Presti is a 34-year-old guy. That bar is new. They've told us it opened, I think, March, just right before, or February, just right before the pandemic. Sunk his life savings in there. And you can see on that street in Staten Island, it's a new business. It's, it's a destination for people in the neighborhood. It's like a new restaurant, a new bar where people can meet with their friends and hang out and have a nice time. There's a real strong sense of community there in Staten Island. So those guys are doing a service to the neighborhood. They're providing local jobs for people. And they invested all their money in it and everything. And then now it's, they're losing everything. Danny's got 2 young kids. And so the governor told an outright lie. And I believe he had to know it was a lie. Or perhaps he's incompetent. That's possible. But he said that Danny Presti had assaulted 2 uniformed NYPD officers. And I don't think it was a mistake. He made a point of reiterating that they were, officers. Who would do that? NYPD, So why would he do something like that? Well, people need to remember that Andrew Cuomo and other government employees are specifically indemnified. They're immune from civil lawsuits coming from people as a result of things that they do in the course of their work, in this case as governor. So he can outright lie, defame the guy, accuse him of attacking police officers, NYPD uniformed officers, even though that's not what happened. And nothing will happen to Andrew Cuomo for lying like that. Now, I contacted the New York Police Department's Public Information Office to ask them if there were uniformed NYPD officers who had been injured, because as I view that video, they don't look like NYPD officers, and every other time that Danny Presti has been arrested, they just show him the badges and the guy calmly walks out. People have seen him on YouTube and television. He seems to be a pretty calm guy who has this all very well thought through. I don't think assaulting anybody is the type of thing that Danny Presti would do. But what's been happening is Max has been quite successful in fundraising to pay the fines and pay the legal bills that are being generated by all this activity from the city. And I would think that irritates somebody like Andrew Cuomo. That might get his nipple clamps in a bunch. And he doesn't want Danny Presti to have financial support. He doesn't want people to go to GoFundMe and look up Max Public House on GoFundMe and give money to the one that has Danny Presti's name on it. Because that would, to some extent, level the playing field and allow Danny to at least pay the attorneys that he needs now to fight these felonies. But how do I know that the governor was lying? Well, okay, so the video evidence is suggestive that he's lying because those guys don't have NYPD hats on, they don't have helmets on, they don't look like they have uniforms on. Presti's own testimony is conveyed by his attorney, Lou Gellermino. He says that these guys did not identify themselves as officers at all. They just yelled, "Hey, Presti," and started charging at him from blocks away. Obviously, he's gotten international attention, death threats, all kinds of stuff. And so he became concerned for his safety, ran to his car, and then these totally unprofessional, plainclothes New York City sheriffs jumped on the car. Presti kind of, lurches the car forward to try to shake the guy off so he can drive away and not be attacked. And a new piece of video has been released from another angle that shows this NYC sheriff, who's allegedly broken both of his legs, running after the car, after Presti is stopped by additional sheriffs with the party lights on. I don't know if you can run with 2 broken legs. Maybe you can. But the New York City Public Information Office refused to answer my questions over the phone. Whoop. And they told me to email my questions to this particular email address, which also refused to answer. I was just asking if any NYPD officers had been injured during the arrest of Danny Presti, as alleged by the governor. And they said you have to ask the New York City Sheriff's Office. And so it's an incredible runaround. This public information office, whether it's from the governor or the NYPD, I mean, these are government entities, and this is supposed to be a government for the people, by the people, of the people. We are the people. So when we want information as members of the public information office, I would think, is supposed to give us that, not give us the runaround. But anyway, they refused to answer. They flatly refused to answer. And I didn't contact the New York City Sheriff's Office because I can only imagine that they would do the same thing. But they are a disgraceful bunch. For people who are elsewhere around the country talking about sheriffs are elected and they're constitutional, this and that, that is not how it works in New York City. I don't know why. I don't know enough about law enforcement and sheriff stuff to tell you, but I can say that the sheriff, Joseph Fakito or something like that, and the sheriff in New York City is appointed by the mayor. And in this case, he's the mayor's hatchet man. Now, to be fair, they did announce that due to this, emergency situation caused by the pandemic, as it were, because of that, the New York City Sheriff's Office has been given new duties, and I guess that includes terrorizing business owners who refuse to comply with unconstitutional orders of shutting down their businesses and going out of business and going broke, while Cuomo is awarded Emmys, despite being accused of sexual assault. Congratulations, by the way, to the Emmys and to Governor Cuomo. He won, as we discussed previously, the International Academy of Television Arts and Sciences Founders Award, joins the prestigious ranks of others, including rapist Bill Cosby. The Emmys got really upset that I mentioned that they give awards to rapists like Bill Cosby, and actually, again, tried to mischaracterize what I said. That's a fact. When Bill Cosby was convicted and put in jail for drugging and raping women, the Emmys didn't say, "Oh, we're shocked and appalled. We are withdrawing Bill Cosby's Emmy." He still has it. So now Andrew Cuomo has been accused of sexually harassing or sexually assaulting an aide, a former aide of his, and he still gets the Emmy. He has it. It's fine. Sexual assault doesn't seem to bother them. It's only when you create a parody image that doesn't comply with their political views. People might also recall that when I spoke with Johnny Tobacco over there at Mac's Public House, Johnny Tobacco told us that he had previously been a member of the Television Academy and that it was a very leftist, progressive organization. I mean, that's no surprise. We see what's on television. We know who they're giving these awards to with regard to news versus who they're trying to sue. I want to thank everybody who's been helping me out with these lawsuits. When you become a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, not only do you enjoy an entire library of sponsor-exclusive content that you can't see anywhere else, you're helping keep Crowdsource the Truth going. So if you enjoy the reports, if you enjoy seeing New York City, if you enjoy hearing my commentary on how powerful people use the law as a weapon to try to shut up people who are behaving lawfully but challenging their authority, then I encourage you to become a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. People can also go to crowdsourcethetruth.com and you can sign up for an annual subscription by sponsoring the Counter Lawfare Fund. That really helps me. The pro se stuff, I don't really need money for. I'm handling that myself. But this lawsuit from the Emmys is real sinister because they took action against the Jason Goodman YouTube channel owned by me, the person, but then they brought a lawsuit against my corporation, which does not own that YouTube channel. So it's not exactly a proper DMCA takedown. It's not a proper DMCA takedown. The proper way to have done it, whatever they think about this, would have been to approach YouTube with a lawsuit against me. But I've said this before. I think they're sneaky and underhanded, so they didn't do that. And they think they're clever. They just keep lying in the pleadings. It's really interesting how people do that. Governor Cuomo does that. So yesterday when we went back to Mac's Public House, there was a NYPD captain there, and I don't know the guy's name, but thank you, Captain, not only for protecting the individuals participating in that truly peaceful demonstration where all that happened was people gave speeches, listened to speeches, showed their support for the bar, and nobody threatened anybody or shot and stabbed anybody or burned down anything or did anything crazy. Everybody was just there expressing their support for Mac's Public House. But that police captain was polite enough to answer the question, and he said that NYPD was not at all involved in the arrest of Danny Presti. It was an operation conducted by the New York City Sheriff's Office. And that means that Andrew Cuomo lied. And for people who aren't in New York City and haven't been going to Staten Island and don't know firsthand exactly what's going on there at Mac's Public House, when you hear the lauded Emmy award-winning criminal governor, geez. And I say he's a criminal because he's defying the Constitution. He's an unprosecuted criminal. But when people hear the governor say that, they might become shocked and say, oh my goodness, assaulting NYPD, that's terrible. I can't support that. This supports the governor's narrative that these are, deplorables who need to be charged with felonies and lose their businesses. I mean, what's going to happen to Danny's kids if he can't overcome this wrongful felony charge? I think he's got 2 or 3 felonies on him. And that's an uphill battle when you fight the man. Also, we're now hearing that Andrew Cuomo might be Joe Biden's pick for Attorney General if Joe Biden succeeds in what he's attempting to do. That if I even talk about it, YouTube might kick me off. That's the other thing I should mention. If you're watching right now live, you're watching on Crowdsource the Truth too. I actually didn't even get a chance to check if it is live. It's hard. I need more hands. Somebody wanted to shake my hand yesterday. Something went wrong, it says. Oh no. No, it looks like it's live. So, imagine what would happen to Danny Presti's kids, Cuomo sits around talking about his daughters. I have my daughter with me. She has the boyfriend. We're going to be having meatballs. This guy wins an Emmy for giving a press conference talking about how he's making spaghetti and meatballs and what he thinks of his daughter's girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. I mean, that's absurd. Him and his brother with the giant Q-tip, I mean, they're making jokes and lying to get people jammed up on felony charges while his irresponsible actions are getting people killed, jamming them into old age homes. We're in a terrible situation. And there's been a lot of talk about mandatory vaccinations for everybody in New York City. People might remember that was first brought to light by Alan Dershowitz on my show. Dersh basically lied when he spoke to Del Bigtree after our interview and said that what did he say? He said I blindsided him with the question and he wasn't prepared. That is absolutely false, Alan Dershowitz. I asked you if it was constitutional for Governor Cuomo to kick us out of City Hall Park for having a polite, calm, peaceful protest saying that it's unconstitutional to lock everybody down. This was in, May or March or pretty early, before everybody's businesses and livelihoods were destroyed, before the tax base of New York City was crushed, before little kids were subjected to 9 months of not seeing a face, a smile, being denied the social education and normal development of a child. Before all that. And people will recall that the NYPD who busted that up refused to even show me a badge. What are you honking at? I'm standing on the sidewalk. Jackass. Oh, he's pulling in there right where I was standing. Well, okay, fine. Capital moving in storage. More people leaving. So, I mean, is it a dark winter? Is it winter yet? Is it the 21st of December, the winter solstice? It's a very dark autumn. Rainy as well. What will happen to Danny Presti's kids if he has this felony and goes away to prison? How will that affect their lives? Andrew Cuomo is a truly evil, terrible man. To blatantly lie about a guy who's just trying to protect his kids. Why doesn't Andrew Cuomo go to Staten Island? You know, he keeps saying, oh, we're going to trust science. I don't think he knows a damn thing about science, because his science tells you to sit in a plastic box in the cold rather than a heated restaurant. Not to mention, his statistics seem to be, totally wrong with regard to how many people are dying. You know, when we look at the CDC numbers that John Cullen covers, seems to have different information than what the governor is telling us. And now that we know that he willfully lies about multiple different sort of things, he lied about the percentage of deaths coming out of Staten Island relative to the rest of New York City. He lied about Danny Presti assaulting NYPD. Danny Presti did not assault NYPD. So he's lying. How can we make good decisions based on lies? That's a social engineer. That's somebody who's trying to convince you to do something against your best interest. There goes the umbrella. So, yeah. The other thing I wanted to tell everybody is that High Dive with Lee Stranahan is coming back on Tuesday. Edward Snowden was tweeting earlier today, so it's appropriate that we are here at this NSA building, 33 Thomas Street. People like seeing stuff like this. What a wreck. I guess somebody knows what's going on down there. Yeah, High Dive with Lee Stranahan coming back Tuesday night. We're going to be talking some more about Bill Browder. If people saw David Hawkins' Discovery CSI, that's another sponsor exclusive show you can get when you become a sponsor of Crowdsource the Truth on Patreon and Subscribestar. David Hawkins has been talking a lot about Cameron Ortis, who was the first civilian to be the director of the RCMP's intelligence department. RCMP is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. It's the Canadian equivalent of the FBI, whereas CSIS is the Canadian equivalent of the CIA. Anyway, Ortis was arrested in 2019 on allegations that he was sharing classified information with a criminal organization called Phantom Secure. We've spoken a lot about Phantom Secure. That is a group that hardware modifies BlackBerries to send encrypted communications. And we've spoken quite a lot about that on David Hawkins' show. It was interesting to me that the FBI rolled up Phantom Secure with the help of the RCMP, the Australian secret, whatever that is, and basically these Five Eyes intelligence agencies all rolled up this BlackBerry modifying criminal technology network. And it was interesting to me, we've spoken quite a lot about how certain YouTube journalists whose brothers are suing me focused everybody's attention on Imran Awan as the king of BlackBerry hacking when he never said a word about this Phantom Secure company. But I did have an opportunity to speak to Cameron Ortis' lawyer on Friday, and my conversation with him, coupled with information in the press, mostly from Canadian broadcasting, indicates that the Canadian government hasn't been very forthcoming with the evidence and information that Cameron Ortis requires to mount his defense. So he's sort of rotting in jail. And it occurred to me that usually when people like the FBI or the RCMP say that somebody is a criminal and they need to go to jail, more often than not, it seems like that's somebody who has evidence that could be used against corrupt members of those organizations, and they stick those guys in jail, and the whistleblowers that they bring forward are usually liars. So I've come around to thinking that Cameron Ortis has been set up, and that Cameron Ortis may have been about to reveal some really important things about an extremely powerful international criminal network. And then my mind was blown. That's cool. New York's bravest, right? NYFD. And they got a Navy SEALs flag there. It came to my attention that Bill Browder was tweeting about Cameron Ortis when he was arrested. And it seemed really strange to me. Definitely Lee Stranahan is one of the biggest experts on Bill Browder and all of the things that he's been involved with in Russia. People might recall when President Trump had the summit with President Putin in Helsinki in like 2017 or 18. Putin mentioned Bill Browder by name, and it was just so interesting that Browder personally met with Cameron Ortis right before he was arrested and then tweeted about him, or maybe it was 2017 or 18, maybe a year before he was arrested or so. And here's the GSA. I've never really seen this before. What do people think of that? Anyway, Browder was tweeting about Cameron Ortis, and he also was tweeting about this Swiss federal officer who's named only as Mr. K. We don't really know who that is, but the only reporting I could find on that Swiss federal officer was coming from Fox News. And Bill Browder is frequently on Fox News. They don't ever really ask him anything about allegations of criminal stuff or why Vladimir Putin names him as somebody that he wants assistance from the United States in prosecuting. They love him. I think he's probably friends with Rupert Murdoch. We know that Rupert Murdoch and the New York Post have published a lot of articles that seem to be favorable to Jeffrey Epstein. There's a lot of strange coincidences having to do with people surrounding this investigation that Cameron Ortis was involved in, and Jeffrey Epstein. People like Peter Nygaard, people like Christopher Charles Ingvaldson, who was Justin Trudeau's roommate and was arrested for running a child pornography ring. Did people know about that? Anyway, so Tuesday night, Lee and I were going to be talking about Bill Browder, Cameron Ortis. I was excited to learn that Lee had not heard of Cameron Ortis. And the reason that excited me is that it means that we could be presenting Lee with a piece of the puzzle that he's been trying to solve for several years that he was previously unaware of, and that might lead to new revelations and a new understanding. This is the whole point of Crowdsource the Truth, by the way, is bringing together people with disparate knowledge, disparate experience, sharing that knowledge and helping it grow, helping everybody to learn more. You know, it's not necessarily about me being a traditional investigative journalist. It's about using the power of social media to connect different people, including people in the audience. Everybody, you know, somebody out there might say, hey, wait a minute, I went to high school with Cameron Ortis, and tell us some little piece of information that there's no other way of finding out. So that could be cool. I'm getting close to the end of my journey here. We're down at the courthouse, and I'm close to City Hall and everything like that. It's rainy and crappy, and I didn't want to ride the subway because I hate wearing a mask, and I hate going down there, and I thought it would be a nice opportunity to make a walk-around video like this. I know people enjoy them. The subway's kind of empty. But yeah, I think people are going to really like this new series, this renewed series with Lee Stranahan, High Dive with Lee Stranahan. People can check that out by becoming sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And don't forget to visit crowdsourcethetruth.com. Check out the options for supporting the Counter Lawfare Fund. I think it's really important that these lawsuits are not allowed to proceed. I don't really appreciate people trying to abuse the law to hurt other people. We need these judicial resources to prosecute criminals and deal with actual civil torts that need attention. So help me stop this nonsense and become a sponsor. I'll talk to everybody later. I'm going to be very curious to see how Sarah Lindsay, I think that's her name, the nurse, I hope she is well. I hope that vaccine inoculates her against anything harmful. And I'll be back later tonight with Jimmy and Joanne Moriarty for Unseen Libya. Don't forget to tune in for that, and thanks for watching, everyone.